We're live.
All right, thank you. Welcome, everyone. This is the House Committee on Energy and Digital Infrastructure. It is Tuesday, April 14th, 2026. We are here to hear testimony on S-219, an act related to Energy Navigator, an Energy Navigator program. I am Scott Campbell. I'm representative from St. Johnsbury. We'll have a room and introduce ourselves. First.
Richard Bailey, Lomoil 2.
Michael Southworth, Caledonia 2.
Christopher Howland, Rutland 4.
Tara Torrey, Washington 2.
Graham Kleppner, Chittenden 13.
Laura Scalia, Wyndham 2.
And the chair will be joining us at some point shortly, I hope. All right, and we have Brett Morrow online as well.
He's not in the room, but
And in the room, okay. All right, well, we just get started. All right, so for the record.
Yeah, for the record, my name is Kara Robacek. I'm the Deputy Director and Network Manager for Energy Action Network. My colleague Jared Duvall has testified in the committee in the past, so I know you're aware of EAN as both a nonprofit that does data analysis and reporting, and as a broad network of partners working together to achieve Vermont's climate and energy commitments in ways that create a more just, thriving, and sustainable future. As you probably also know, EAN does not lobby for or against bills before the legislature, and thus I'm just here to share information. So one of my main roles at EAN is to support collaboration on energy and climate issues among our broad network of utilities, businesses, nonprofits, institutions of higher education, and public sector partners. At EAN's annual network summit in November of 2025, so just this past year, several new initiatives were proposed. And one of these was a team that was established to look at the possibility of expanding energy coaching throughout the state of Vermont. As a first step in that process, the co-chairs of that group interviewed people who work in or are adjacent to energy coaching in Vermont already. And the co-chairs who conducted these interviews were Mike Roy from the Climate Economy Action Center of Addison County, Michelle McCutcheon-Shore from Efficiency Vermont, and myself. In all, we conducted 21 interviews. We spoke with all three of the energy efficiency utilities and several other electric utilities. We talked with energy coaches and other people who work in the weatherization assistance program through the community action programs. We talked to educational nonprofits and with people who do coaching, both through nonprofit models and as contractors or consultants. The question we were exploring was, would Vermont residents benefit from a statewide network of local energy coaches utilizing volunteers? So with all of these 21 people, we asked questions about the scope and scale of the work that was done by their organizations. We also asked them about the challenges that homeowners, property owners, and renters face in completing clean energy projects, what the gaps are for helping people complete energy projects to reduce or eliminate fossil fuel use, their opinions on whether households would benefit from the creation of a network of local energy coaches, and the roles that volunteers might play, and the role that their organization might play in such a network. So our primary key finding was that funding remains the biggest challenge. No surprise there. Funding is by far the biggest challenge in terms of accomplishing work that will reduce emissions from fossil fuels and reduce energy expenses. There are already many entities that are doing good work and could do more if the funding were available. That includes the weatherization assistance programs and includes energy efficiency utilities. The second finding was that the system and project complexity can be a big challenge. Also not a surprise. And the elephant in the room is that it is really, really hard to help renters in this space. So when we asked whether volunteers from the community can help, we heard yes, they can. But pretty much every respondent said this with a caveat. Volunteers can be helpful, but they can do more harm than good if they give incorrect technical advice, or if they give incorrect information about programs, or if their work complicates a system that's already fragmented and can be confusing. And there are a number of things that can complicate this work and that no volunteer network of energy coaches is ever going to be able to address. This includes the fact that Vermont has a complex web of programs It's not going to be solved by coaching. It includes the fact that funding and financing options are lacking for many people. Several people stated that there are too few weatherization and clean energy contractors in the state to do the work. And interviewees pointed out that some homes are just really hard to electrify or weatherize because of structural issues. So when we talked with these folks about where coaches might be able to add value, we heard mostly about two things: project management and communication. So we definitely heard that most volunteer coaches don't have the expertise to give that technical advice. And so their work is an add-on to the work that the professionals are already doing through things like the Weatherization Assistance Program, the energy efficiency utilities like Efficiency Vermont, Burlington Electric, and BGS, and the work of skilled contractors. However, energy coaches can help in project management. They can translate technical information from the experts to be more understandable to the consumer. They can help customers talk through their next steps and a scope of work. They might be able to help apply for rebates and programs, and they can help call contractors and interpret reports and quotes. So in this project management role, they are assisting in the work being done by all of these skilled and trained professionals that we have in the state. And volunteers can also add significant value in communications. They can elevate outreach by sharing their own personal stories, by building neighbor-to-neighbor support, and by social norming was what one person called it, which is sort of making it so that people understand that these sorts of projects are a normal thing and lots of people are doing them. In these conversations, though, we also heard that energy coaching is not simple. If there are going to be volunteers in this space, they have to be trained not only in technical skills, but also in social skills and sales. One person described it as a combination of sales and counseling, and someone else said, you never know what kind of living situation you're going to be walking into, and if there's volunteers doing this, they need to be prepared for that. And we also heard that if there is going to be a volunteer network of energy coaches, they would have to be very well supported by professionals with ongoing training, funding, ongoing support, and coordination across programs. So EAN is committed to support this conversation among our members already. We currently have a survey deployed to solicit feedback on the source of information I've just given to you. These slides came from a webinar that we did that had some conversation as part of it, and that is culminating in this survey, and we'd be happy to share anything that comes out of that survey. I wanted to end by coming back to a slide I already showed, this slide, because I think it's just so important that we don't lose the fact that the biggest challenge for low and moderate income Vermonters who want to improve their energy efficiency is the lack of ongoing and consistent funding for energy efficiency work. Coaches and navigator programs can be helpful, but it's important to remember that they don't replace the need for funding for the very effective programs that we already have in the state. And that is all of my prepared remarks. Happy to take any questions.
Sure, great. What is the status of this action team now?
Waiting to see what comes out of what the work you all are doing.
Okay. So it's still meeting, and this was initiated this past year.
Just in November. So, we've really just finished this work of speaking with all these people, collating the information, and then sharing it with the network. That was maybe a week ago that we gave the webinar and deployed the survey. So we are just waiting to hear what the next steps might be in the state, and are ready to help out.
Okay. And that's the target population for an energy coaching network or an energy coaching effort. People who qualify for weatherization get energy coaching through the weatherization program. So what's the group that you're anticipating?
I think it's kind of the rest of the state. It's other people who just need support to understand how to move through with these projects. And as you said, at that lower income tier, there's already support there.
So everyone else, basically.
Yeah. Yep.
Any questions there? Yeah, I guess one of the things that struck me in the comments was the issue about volunteers can do more harm than good if they're it's sort of like a little knowledge is dangerous, right? And so I guess I'm kind of stuck on that, having experience in the space myself, and wondering how how you're feeling about that. What more can you say about that?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting in doing these interviews because almost everyone we spoke with said a fairly quick, yes, we need more help in this space. So
Right.
that's good. But everyone also said, but only if it's done right and only if it's not making things more muddled or
Right.
giving bad advice. So that's a structural issue. If something were to be developed, there has to be enough of structure that the volunteers are supported in a way that they're not doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, it seems like a really rigorous training program, and some sort of stipend or something. I mean, people have to feel like they're getting, they've got a stake in it. They're getting something out of it too, and even if it's just nominal, like a legislative pay, for example. Yeah, so I'm kind of worried about that part of it.
Do you have any thoughts, or did the teams conducting these interviews collect any ideas on any small or medium-sized ways one can help renters?
Renters are, I mean, there's an extent to which the message isn't really different. There needs to be funding for the programs. There needs to be communication with both the landlords and the tenants that say this, that normalize, that these sorts of activities are normal, that other people are doing them, information about how people go about doing them. But there is a split incentive where the landlord has to put in most of the funds and the tenant has to be ready to be disrupted if you're doing something like large, like a weatherization project. So it's just hard. And there are some folks in the state who know a lot more about it than I do. But I'm not sure that volunteer energy coaches would make a huge step in that space.
Yeah, I'll say renters is really difficult, especially if there's the split incentive being that the renters are paying for the fuel bills, but any improvements would have to be paid for by the landlord.
Yeah.
So they're not seeing any direct benefit. In 3D thermal, which works exclusively in rentals in the apartment buildings, I think every building that I recall in the 9+ years that I was there was not owner paid or tenant paid heat. It's all owner paid heat. So the owners were getting the benefit of the reduction in heating costs. But there's also actually benefits to the owner for paying heat because it can be a much simpler, having a single system can be a much simpler maintenance issue than having multiple systems. And you can also be sure that every apartment is heated and there's not somebody who's, getting shut off because they get not paying their electric bill or whatever.
Yeah.
So
The other thing is that some of the volunteers could be, we're talking mainly about buildings, but there are other things like speaking about electric vehicles. That's something that renters can access just as easily as homeowners can if there's charging infrastructure.
Yeah.
So some of the easier ways to get into a less expensive and less fossil fuel using equipment can be thinking about transportation instead of the entire building as well. So, this could go in multiple directions.
So
Thinking about window dressers, and what a powerful volunteer effort that's been, and that's in so many of our communities, and how, because it isn't comprehensive, it's like attractive, and it's like
it's discrete because you can
it's a
pick off.
discrete,
Yeah.
bite-sized,
Yeah.
fun approach that can then lead to a pipeline and connections in the community. And I feel like that's an area we might want to think about building out now that we have so much window dresser stake. But yet follow up, like I feel like there could be a next step, especially for some of these super committed volunteers. With probably in the existing ecosystem. But I'm intrigued by just the what actually activates people, you know? And I think a little bit about like, oh, I need a comprehensive master plan for how I'm going to decarbonize my home isn't really top of mind for a lot of folks.
Right.
And for those that it is, there's a lot of alternatives, like even paid coaches, you know? So, it's really good to hear what you've been digging up, and, looking forward to hearing the feedback from your session.
So an issue about the window dressers approach that has come up is this question about whether the plastic inserts, right, and whether they're allowed in rental units. And I got an email from somebody who Derek talked to, I think it was over the weekend, and somebody in my district asking about it. And what I recall from the weatherization program 35 years ago is we were not allowed. This was in the days when we were putting plastic on windows, especially I'm thinking mobile homes, which quite often had really crappy windows. And we were not allowed to put plastic in the weatherization program, not allowed to put plastic on windows and rentals. And as I recall, because of the fire hazard issue. And rentals are public buildings in terms of, and under the jurisdiction, therefore, of the Division of Fire Safety. So they made the rules about that. We were allowed to put plastic windows and owner occupied. And that, seems like a kind of an uncomfortable dichotomy.
No, I have.
Do you know anything about this issue, or just come up in conversation?
I do not know anything more than you just said about
Okay.
the issue. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a sticky way. Air James just joined us.
Hello, don't mind me. Sorry, I had to be out.
Any other questions from anybody?
This go ahead.
There we go. Okay.
So
Oh,
how would this go across the whole state? This was a pilot program in Addison County, was it?
We have been doing a program in Addison County, and that's part of what we are trying to start to figure out is how would you expand this across the state? But the first thing we wanted to know was where is it really useful? Where are the gaps that this could help to fill? And so before we jumped into how do we design something bigger, we wanted to hear from people who are working in this space, what is really helpful and what is not, before designing anything else.
well, yeah, so do you have any thoughts on the bill, S-219, which is building question?
I mean, the EAN's role is to not
Yes.
give comments on specific bills.
Okay. All right. Yeah, all right.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Righty.
Thank you.
Let's see. So 1:30, we're switching to S213. Are they going to join us online?
I think they're coming in person.
Okay. Well, why don't we take a 5-minute break then?